Yo, let's talk taxes. We all know them, we all sometimes hate them. But they're kinda a big deal. Taxes are how governments pay for stuff. Roads, schools, hospitals, the important things. Think of it like a giant potluck. Everyone chips in a little or a lot depending on how much you make, and everyone gets to enjoy the feast. But here's the thing, not all countries run their potlucks the same way. Some countries are all about that from each according to their ability vibe, taxing the rich more to provide for everyone. Others are more like you get what you pay for with lower taxes but fewer public services. And then there's the Middle East where the potluck is. The Middle East is known for a lot of things: oil, history, delicious food. But one thing it's not known for: taxes. At least not in the way most other countries do them. See, many Middle Eastern countries have historically relied on other sources of income, namely oil and gas revenues to fund their governments. This means they haven't had to rely on taxes from their citizens as much as other countries. Now, this might sound pretty sweet at first. Who wouldn't want to live in a place with low or no taxes? But as with most things in life, it's a bit more complicated than that. To understand why the Middle East's tax system is the way it is, we gotta rewind the clock a bit, like way back. See, the roots of this system go all the way back to the Ottoman Empire, which ruled over much of the Middle East for centuries. Back then, taxes were often seen as a form of exploitation, imposed by foreign rulers on their subjects. This created a deep-seated cultural aversion to taxes that has persisted in some form or another to this day. Fast forward to the 20th century, and the discovery of oil in the region changed everything. Suddenly, these countries had a massive new source of income, one that didn't require them to tax their citizens heavily. Oil and gas have been a double-edged sword for the Middle East. On the one hand, they've brought immense wealth to the region, fueling economic growth and development. On the other hand, they've also created a dependence on a single, volatile resource, one that's subject to global price fluctuations and, the whole running out thing eventually. This reliance on oil and gas has also had a profound impact on the region's political and social structures. It's allowed governments to maintain power without having to rely on taxation, which in turn has limited the development of democratic institutions and citizen participation in some cases. Section 5. The social contract, trust and expectations. Taxes aren't just about money, they're also about the relationship between a government and its people. It's like a social contract. Citizens pay taxes, and in return, the government provides essential services and invests in the country's future. When this contract is working, everyone benefits. Citizens feel like they're contributing to something bigger than themselves, and the government has the resources to build a better future for all. But when this contract is broken, whether through corruption, inequality, or a lack of transparency, it can lead to distrust, instability, and even unrest. In the Middle East, the lack of a strong tradition of income tax has sometimes created a disconnect between citizens and their governments. Without the shared experience of paying taxes and seeing those taxes translated into tangible benefits, it can be harder to build a sense of shared responsibility and civic engagement. Section 6. Comparing systems from welfare states to resource-rich nations. So how does the Middle East's approach to taxation stack up against other regions? Well, it's a mixed bag. In many Western countries, taxes are seen as a key tool for promoting social welfare and reducing inequality. These countries often have progressive tax systems, where the wealthy pay a higher percentage of their income in taxes, which are then used to fund social programs like healthcare, education, and unemployment benefits. Then you have countries like Norway and other Scandinavian nations, which have high taxes but also high levels of social trust and a strong sense of community. These countries have successfully used their tax revenues to create some of the most equitable and prosperous societies in the world. And then there are countries like the United Arab Emirates, which have successfully diversified their economies beyond oil and gas and are now attracting businesses and investment from around the world, thanks in part to their low tax environment. Section 7. Case Studies, Saudi Arabia, UAE and beyond. Let's take a closer look at a couple of examples. Saudi Arabia, the region's largest economy and the world's top oil exporter, has historically relied heavily on oil revenues to fund its government. However, in recent years, the kingdom has taken steps to diversify its economy and reduce its dependence on oil, including introducing a value-added tax and other measures. The UAE, on the other hand, has long had a reputation as a tax haven, with no income tax or corporate tax. However, the country has also been at the forefront of economic diversification in the region, investing heavily in tourism, technology, and other sectors. These examples highlight the diversity of approaches to taxation within the Middle East. While some countries are just beginning to explore tax reforms, others are further along in the process of diversifying their economies and finding new ways to generate revenue. Section 8. The future of taxation. Challenges and opportunities. The Middle East is at a crossroads. As the global economy shifts away from fossil fuels and towards more sustainable sources of energy, the region's reliance on oil and gas revenues is becoming increasingly unsustainable. This presents both challenges and opportunities. On the one hand, governments will need to find new ways to generate revenue to fund essential services and maintain social stability. This will likely involve introducing new taxes or expanding existing ones, which could be met with resistance from populations accustomed to low tax burdens. On the other hand, this transition also presents an opportunity to rethink the social contract between citizens and their governments. By introducing more equitable and transparent tax systems, governments can build trust with their citizens, create a level playing field for businesses, and invest in a more sustainable and prosperous future for all. Section 9. What's next? Diversification, sustainability, and the road ahead. The future of taxation in the Middle East is uncertain, but one thing is clear. The status quo is not sustainable as the region navigates the challenges of economic diversification, climate change, and a rapidly evolving global landscape. Finding new and innovative ways to generate revenue will be essential. This will require a delicate balancing act, one that involves addressing historical sensitivities, building public trust, and creating a tax system that is fair, efficient, and supports sustainable and inclusive growth. It's a tall order, but the stakes are high. The decisions made today will shape the region's economic and political landscape for generations to come.